So, I think it's time to talk about the champion mechanic. So this is sort of like the big thing.
Do you want that, chat? Dude, let's
Oh yeah,
hear it,
yep.
chat. Do you want to see or hear and slash discuss the concept of what we're doing to the overseers? Let's
Oh,
hear
we're
it.
just tearing them apart.
Yep, we're destroying them. They're dead. Not even useful anymore.
Yep, gone, gone.
We're just taking them out of the game. Don't even care. Oh
Alrighty,
god.
that's
Oh god. What have
the
I done?
hypes. The hype comes.
What have I done? All right, let me
It's good. That's good enough for us. It's good enough for us.
let me bring it up really quickly. Here, guys. Here's the champion card. Okay, I'll do it for reals, for realsies. Where is it? Found it. There we go. Let me resize it. Okay, you're good.
Alrighty, so Champion's Herald.
All
Now-
overseers are now Wizardrix. Perfect.
Is that meme still a thing?
It is for card. It is for veteran card gamers.
Alrighty, so Champion's Herald. Her effect isn't really going to make much sense to start with. I just wanted to use her as a segue to get into talking about the actual mechanic. So, flying, when Champion's Herald is deployed, your champions cost 1 less to deploy. So, what we're doing is we're basically taking all of the unique angel cards. This is anything from Soul to Ariel to Laria to Harel. All of these really big hitters that basically made the rest of your sort of like bulk of the angels really strong. We're taking all of them and giving them this keyword. The keyword is champion. And
If you want, I can actually once you're done explaining champions herald and the concept of it, I can bring up a champion of your choice on the stream.
Bring up Laria if you
Laria? Okay.
can. Laria. She's pretty simple. It's good. So what this card
What?
does,
Oh.
what this keyword does.
Hold on, I need to save
Yeah.
this and.
It's all good. Stand by for spoilers.
Yeah. The text on the buttons is broken, so that was fun. We'll just go 3 Purity Overseers. Okay, so you guys ready? I'm gonna strip off the overlay here in 3, 2, 1.
Dun dun. Just entered the Twilight Zone. Alrighty, so yeah, Laria. Now you'll see that Lilaria's effect hasn't actually changed that much. We wanted to keep. We felt that a lot of the actual cards we didn't really have to change their effects. What we did change is this champion mechanic. So what the champion keyword means is when you deploy a champion card or when a champion card enters the deployed area, all other champions that you currently control are returned to your hand immediately. Okay? So that means you can only have one champion out on the field at any time, regardless of how you try to tricks it out. You can't raise it from the ground, you can't raise it from the graveyard, you can't get it out of your deck. None of that will work. You'll get the card, but everything else that you control will return immediately to your hand, all of your other champions. So what this allows us to do is... Yes, and you can now drag her down. Yeah, she has had that modification.
Guys, let Poga finish before you say that Lilaria is identical, because while Lilaria's effect may be similar to what it used to be, this entire concept changes the way Overseers are played entirely.
I specifically point out Lilaria first because she was one of the angels that had her effect impacted the least. Now, we understand that inherently most of like this change is a nerf generally, but what it allows us to do is it allows us to really sort of sexify or whatever the other angel cards, the other angel uniques. So Laria, she has the same. Now the reason Lalaria's effect stays the same is because we felt that Lalaria's effect should be nerfed. We wanted to nerf her effect. We thought it was too powerful. It basically just got rid of all, like, why would you ever attempt to ascend anything? You know, everything just has flying already. It just flies over everything. It was just too powerful. We wanted to nerf it. But instead of nerfing it, what we did was we overlaid this complete nerf onto every champion and then adjusted each champion individually. Now, Laria didn't go through any adjustments at all because we wanted to nerf her, but we felt by adding this keyword, she was fine. So
Guys,
that's what she is.
Okay, I'm going to say this once. All you people that are saying that overseers are getting nerfed and you're going to trade off all your overseers because you now feel that they're garbage, seriously, stop and wait. Just consider what you're saying for a second. You have not seen them in action. You don't know the rest of the champions. You don't know how they synergize. The faction feels very dynamic and different now. Saying that the faction is nerfed because you understand how the champion mechanic works is really preemptive, and you're only hurting yourself. Give Poga a little bit of time. Thanks. Go ahead.
Alrighty, so that's the Laria. So what we're going to do now is, so we can change to another card whenever.
Yeah, you want me to show another one?
Alrighty. Yep. Now we'll crank it over to Cayos.
Okay.
Alrighty, so
this is for you guys who was saying that the champion mechanic can allow Champion of Ruin to be abused. He cannot be.
Yeah. So what I figure is probably best is we'll go through each of the champions and we'll just have a look at them so you guys can really get a feel for how the factions are going to change. Remember, we're still balancing all of these. So keep that in mind. We do not want the angels to be unplayable.
Yeah, these still need a little bit of balance work, but
yeah.
The concept is really fun.
I'll get to the really powerful ones sort of close to the end. So what Cayos does now is whenever he hits the fortress, he has flying to start with. Whenever he hits the fortress, he deals 3 damage to everything on your opponent's battlefield. So we normally would not even consider making this card. Normally, this is just, you know, how easy is it to hit someone with an overseer's card? You know, it's got flying. You just, you know, you bounce back whatever they have with reach or other flyers. He hits once, just once, and suddenly he's better than a heat wave. Well, not for other zones, but he basically completely nukes the battlefield, and he can do this turn after turn after turn. So if you're in a position in which the opponent has so the champion mechanic is designed for you to basically switch gears. So let's say, the opponent has a whole bunch of defenders. Okay, so a whole bunch of ground-based defenders. I'm going to put out Laria so I can fly over these defenders. Okay, now he's adjusting to my strategy he's going more on the offensive. He's trying to rush me down now that he knows that he can't defend against me. I'm going to take out Laria and I'm going to swap him in with Cayos. Now, because he has no defenders, I'm swinging straight at his fortress and absolutely decimating his offensive line with Cayos' ability. If he starts to adjust to Cayos' ability, you can switch him out back into another champion again. This mechanic will also allow us to create more support cards, like the Herald, which allows you to obviously switch out your champions faster. We're also looking at having cards that basically allow you to make use of this champion mechanic a lot better. So we've got Cayos here. Now, so what we're doing after Cayos, we'll go to, what's another one? Sol. Let's get Sol out.
Sol? Alright.
Sol.
You're going to do that?
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
He's going to do this. Alright, he's going to do this. Okay. By the way, for someone who said the death of 3 purity overseers, no. So yeah, no. Biosol. Yeah, Biosol wasn't necessary. By the way, don't mind this whole IWUI name 2 Lives English thing. We know. Just don't worry about it. For those who didn't see what champion is, I'll just put my mouse over it really quickly and let Poga talk.
Alrighty, so first of all, Soul was a character. Now Soul, we're thinking of buffing him up to 5-drop. But basically, what Soul is we decided to take off the ascend mechanic from Soul. So what Soul is he just has 2 lives. He just has multi-strike. He no longer needs to ascend. I know for a lot of people the ascend mechanic was almost negligible. You had him in command. He never really needed to ascend, but it did allow him to be sniped off sometimes before you could ascend him. We've taken that off him. We felt that he doesn't need that anymore because of the fact that he's a champion. If you want to just play a champion that has no particular synergy with the rest of your cards, if you just want a really big beater that in turn restricts the other cards that you can play in your deck, then you play Soul. You play him out. He hits like a truck. You know, we all know how Soul works. And now a little bit, yeah, he is being put up to a 5-drop because of this next thing is obviously now you can have Soul die once. You can put out another champion, return Soul to your hand, replay Soul, bam, you got your 2 lives again.
That was, that was tested to not happen.
Well, that currently does not happen, but it is.
Okay, that's the intention?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you return to your hand, mechanics like that should reset. I
so
know that's something
the
that on
the
a
concept
case-by-case
there
basis
for everyone
doesn't
listening, obviously, the concept there is if you do want to reset Soul to 2 lives, you have to give yourself a huge tempo loss. Because you're going to have to play out another champion. He's going to be exhausted that turn. Then you can play out Soul again. He'll be exhausted that turn. Then he'll have 2 lives, and you can put him out on the battlefield. So,
yeah.
And to be fair, for anyone saying Biosoul is still going to be a problem, look at it this way: if you're abusing the champion mechanic with Biosoul, you're resetting all the buffs that you've given him with Biosoul as well. So
Yep.
you have to look at how Soul works by himself. But as any other concept, he has very little synergy with anything else. He is a strong card on his own.
We are the way that we're addressing Biosoul as well is we're making a lot of changes to other Overseers cards that are used to supplement that deck. And although Soul is a very fundamental part of that deck, we also feel that other Overseers cards are played to really sort of give it that strength that it needs to push you over the edge to take that victory, and those cards are cards that we're addressing as well. So that's what we're trying to do with the champion mechanic is where, yeah, because of the fact that these characters, just like what Swift said, because of the fact that these characters have unique as well, you cannot switch one champion in for itself. So I cannot have a Soul and then switch a Soul in for another Soul to return him. I will have to play a different champion in order to return him back to the hand.
Overseers they're a little bouncy, but it's only between your own hand. And a lot of the resets, they cost you tempo. So you really should look at that.
The question from Doug Parent, does Apparition allow you to have more than one champion on the battlefield? No, it doesn't. Currently it does on test, but that's not intended. The second that any champion exists on your battlefield, basically we have an ID ordering system, but that basically says this card has been on the field earliest, and whatever card has been on the field most recently is the one that stays, and everyone gets returned back. We're going to be really strict on not allowing any type of card synergy to allow you to get multiple champions on the field.
Exactly, Kevkas. And that's one thing I've been saying, and I know I apologize to the people that, I potentially overhyped because I didn't give you enough information. The concept of Overseers, the faction is very dynamic, interesting. There's so many different ways to build a deck around 2 Purity Overseers now. There's so many different strategies that someone could have based off of which card you're championing. There's just a lot of options with the Overseers now. They're a very strategic faction based off of how you want to build your deck. So I'm glad that so many people are on board with this. You actually do have Poga specifically to thank for this. So by all means, thank him. He has done amazing work with this faction, and we all talked about the feedback that you guys have given us ever since the Ascension launch. So that
we have been watching.
Yeah, we always watch. This is thanks to you guys, and this is thanks to Poga. So leave your thanks for him.
Alrighty, so
do you want to?
I just want to. I'd really just like to go through all of them,
even
if we want to.
Let me just put champion in here.
All of them.
Let me put champion in here. That'll work. Let's go with Cassiel.
Alrighty, cool. Okay.
Oh wait, no, not Cassiel.
No,
'Cause
not
she still
Cassiel.
need, yeah, she
Cassiel,
still needs a change. Let's go with
she's
Harel.
yeah, she's yeah, Harel. Harel seems good. Alrighty, so we'll get Harel up there.
The Overseers are going to die a lot to the rush decks. You probably should wait until you see how the rest of the faction works. The faction cannot be universally overbearing anymore. They do have their weaknesses. The concept, yeah, I know she still has the wrong name. That's why I'm not doing her. The concept of Overseers now, they have very accentuated strengths and very accentuated weaknesses, and that's how a faction should be. That's just what it is.
Alrighty, so now we've got Harel. Again, a lot of the strength that we were giving these champions in trade-off for their champion sort of mechanic was removing their necessity to ascend. So now Harel, not only does he give a buff, he gives it's +3/+3 now instead of +2/+2. He does also have to be on the battlefield, so he cannot just support buff anymore from the support zone. But the trade-off for that was, yeah, if you have a lot of angels, if you still want to create that token rush, if you still want to basically stack your field and hit with a whole bunch of angels really that have been beefed up, you can add this with Guns of Goliath. We still give you that playstyle, but as you'll note, you can no longer have both Harel and Laria on the field at the same time. So it's up to you. Do you want to fly over? Do you want to have that avoidance? Do you want to fly over your opponents, or do you want to simply hit with harder things?
Champions are 2 purity, bruv.
Champions are all 2 purity, and we will not be making single purity champions because their champion mechanic is their inherent weakness, and that inherent weakness is it necessitates them being 2 purity. So you may see a 3 purity champion, but you will never see a 1 purity champion. So yeah, Harel is another example. Yeah, Harel also no longer buffs himself. We don't like cards buffing themselves, because if we were to have a card that passively buffs himself at all times, we should simply just increase the power and health of him. It's just complicated if he also buffs himself. It's like he's a 6/6
Yeah, he's
that buffs
basically a
himself
pack
by
leader for
3/3.
angels. That's a good
Why
way to
not
look
make
at
him
it.
9/9? Yeah, he's a pack
And
leader for angels.
if that's the way you're building, if that's the way you're building Overseers, you can still build them for a rush, absolutely, but they can't have a whole mess of different options baked into that same deck at the same time as building for rush. So if you want that buff, go for it.
Yeah. Also, Auxiliary Angel has been changed.
Yeah, she's the
angel
next
card
one.
no longer just gives straight up flying to everything.
Yeah.
That does not exist anymore.
And she has a name now. I actually like her name.
Yep. Alrighty. So
you want to move to her, and then we can go to the hybrid champions.
Yeah. Okay, we're getting to the hybrids already. Awesome. Yeah. Okay, so we'll switch to Serenia.
Here's Serenia.
Now, Serenia is currently going under a lot of different balancing right now. We're deciding whether she's going to impact all characters or just angels, whether you hit the fortress, whether you deal combat damage. There's a whole bunch of decisions being made, but this is basically what she does. So she's a champion. Again, she will have... We're not 100% sure whether we want to give her flying from base or not. And basically, while she's on the battlefield, angels that you control, when they hit the fortress, will heal you. Yeah, basically they'll heal you every time you hit something. Right now, they'll heal you for 2 every time they hit the fortress. Things like not having the unique and stuff, that's just temp server stuff. That's simply the card is incomplete. Presume that these will all be unique and all the rest of us.
Right.
So basically what that means is this is a card that we really kind of wanted to push the healing as well in Angels. We've kind of done it a little bit in Aziel, but that was really just one big chunk.
Look at Made's comment. I'm sorry. No,
there is no Yobo. There's no ascended Yobo yet. We're looking at it.
It's on the table.
Ascended Yobo. Every angel you control has -5 morale cost.
They all give you morale.
Yeah.
Oh god. To
No,
answer a question
Azil
from earlier,
is. Oh, yep. Go on.
the question of does that mean that one purity overseers will be inviable? The concept of one purity is to splash. You can splash various mechanics of the base functionality of a faction. One purity, obviously by itself, means you have to have two purity of something else. Means you're delving into that. You're delving into that concept of the other faction deeper. So while one purity right now may not be the strength of overseers, that is something we are currently looking at, and we do want to maintain a little bit of a splash.
Yeah, there definitely are. When it comes to factions and how good they are at particular purities, we understand that Angels is relatively insular at two purity, and therefore may not allow the strengths that other factions give at one purity. But we're okay with that. For example, Genesis. I'm sure a lot of you know that Genesis, like, we've kind of changed it to a bit now. We've really tried to give them some sexy two drops, but in the past it's been like, why would I make two purity Genesis? All of their good stuff is in one purity. They're a very splashable faction. They're a great complement to any other faction. And sort of Angels is a little bit the opposite to that. You know, yes, you can have the one purity drops, but they're a bit more insular in their two purities. They can't be splashed as much, but the trade-off for that is their two purity is very dynamic and very customizable. You have a lot of option within the limited amount of cards that two purity Angels gives you. So yeah, just as what Rithorian is saying, in that you won't. A lot of the time, you don't really have, like, if you're hitting the fortress, you're already winning. You don't need to heal, etc., etc. That is definitely something that we're looking at right now on the test server, and we're currently looking at possible options like whenever a angel character attacks, or whenever an angel character you control deals combat damage. All of that sort of stuff. We're trying to get her in a really nice place. So the specific trigger of this heal has not been determined yet, but the fact that it will trigger off angels and it will give you a heal is pretty set in stone. So, you know,
Ascension is still a thing. That's more of a one purity deal now.
Yeah, ascending is still a thing, but it's also right now we thought. I'm just going to take a real quick segue to talk about the ascend mechanic really quick. We wanted the ascend mechanic to be sort of interesting. We wanted to have mini missions almost that you could have inside a character that you fulfill the criteria and you get a permanent benefit. Now, we found that we didn't really implement that as good as we could have. A lot of the missions, a lot of the ascend mechanics were passively complete anyway. Like with Harel, you'd probably just be summoning that many angels anyway. You weren't really trying to go out of your way to do that in order to get him to ascend. Same with Soul. You know, angels are some angel that you control is probably going to die within the first 3 turns. So Soul from command is going to have ascend. What we wanted to do was we really wanted to take a step back. We wanted to put this champion mechanic in, change a lot of cards that had ascend currently to have this new champion mechanic, and then look at it in the future in the oppression and rebellion sets that are coming out to really sort of reinvent the ascend mechanic and bring ascend back as a more powerful, more influential, but more sort of interesting mechanic that will go along with the angel card. So although the angels right now may be pretty low on ascend, they will definitely have more ascend in the next couple of sets as we've really laid the foundation for this champion mechanic, and we will be looking at really sort of making more ascend cards in the next couple of sets that are hopefully a lot more interesting and a lot more dynamic. So
mysterious. That's as I said a couple times. I'm just going to repeat it really quickly. I'm not going to be answering questions like that. Like what's in order, what card are you seeing on my screen? I'm not going to be answering questions like that because you're going to see a lot of them while I'm playing matches. So don't worry about that right now. Yeah. So do you want to do hybrid champions?
If we're done through all of the 2 purity, then we'll move on to the hybrids. Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
Oh, they're technically the duels.
Yeah.
So let's get into the duels. So this was.
Which one do you want to start with?
We'll go Mr. Green.
Okay. Gohan or go home?
Gohan or go home.
There you go.
Alrighty, so.
Oh, that's right. I didn't show Ariel.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, never mind. Get back to Ariel. I like Ariel. I forgot. Yep. So much stuff to think about.
It's alright. There you go. That's because she still doesn't have a champion name. I'll get back to Gohan in a moment. Calm down.
Ariel is actually technically has the champion name of Gohan, and we're changing Gohan's name, but that's fine. So Ariel will be the champion of Resolve, as per her sort of like effect allows. So basically, what this card does, yeah, she is 2 purity. This is another incomplete transition.
Yep.
Resolve is simply a stack. It's not a separate mechanic to itself. It's simply just a stack, like the same way that the Book of the Dead gains chapters and the Summoning Stone gains charges, all of that sort of stuff. This is simply a stack like mechanic. So what she can do is you pay 2 and one of your stacks of Resolve to create a 2/2 Angel, and basically she gets 1 Resolve every time another another Angel you control dies. So what this does is this allows, to start with, she's the only Angel that has the effect to become more powerful by command. So we tried to make that, besides giving you the flexibility of simply hasting it out from the command zone, Ariel is the only champion that actually you want to have in command early, because she can gain Resolve stacks while the rest of your guys fight. She will not be able to activate this ability while in command, though. That is something that we are adjusting for the card. So again, Ariel, we kind of like to have these. We really want to also encourage having multiple champions in a deck and using them to complement each other. So you'll have Ariel in command for a little bit. You'll get to like turn 6 or 7 or whatever. You bring out Ariel. You drop down a whole bunch of stuff for like some angels. You sort of start to stack your field up, and then you switch her back out and you switch her in for Laria and Flyover or Harel, buff them up. We're still going through balance changes with Ariel because we understand right now her ability is a bit pricey. What we want her to have, yes, you can have multiple champions in command, but when you place a new one from command, all of the current ones deployed will return to your hand. So basically, we know what we want to do with Ariel. In terms of balancing, she's still a bit far off, but Ariel basically allows you. She will be your token generator. She will be able to spam tokens for you, sort of taking the token generation from Harel and the token generation from Ariel and sort of buffing it up and giving it to her in an activatable form. So you can spam that as many times as you want as well. So that's pretty much what we've got with Ariel. She complements the other champions because she gives the bodies for then all of these other champions to give buffs to. Alrighty, so now we can go back to Gohan.
That's why we were saying, Xexes, all of these cards are still a work in progress. We're only showing you the preview of the concept of these cards. Everything you're going to see today on this stream is still a work in progress. Let's go back to Gohan. There you are.
Awesome. Alrighty, so...
We did change it 0.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. Before we get into that, spoiler alert for the 2 nerfs that we're making, because I just want to get this out of the way before I forget it. Precautionary measures has been changed to you can remove up to 3 cards from your graveyard, and you get +3/+0 to everything you own, and the cost has been reduced. So basically, the power and the cost and the scale has simply been reduced down. It's more of a niche buff, similar, but in some ways more powerful and in some ways weaker than Guns. And then Heaven's Assistance. Heaven's Assistance is simply being made that, 1, it will calculate the amount of characters that you have on the field when it is actually played. This was always intended. This has simply been a buff. A bug. So if you can't do the whole thing where you Calamity and then you play this card to summon more guys after the Calamity. That combo won't work anymore. Plus, the angels summoned through precautionary measures will no longer have through Heaven's Assistance will no longer have flying. So they're the 2 changes that we're making to those cards to get them a bit down into line with everything else. So back to Gohan. Now, we initially had Gohan at 1 Purity Angels, 1 Purity DoD. Because, that's 2 purity. All of these cards are 2 purity. But what we wanted to do, as we said before, was technically that would allow you to have a 2 purity DoD deck with a champion in it. And that is not what we wanted to do. So we made the decision to experiment with this sort of the next step in sort of faction costing. Now, this is the first card that we've created that has 2 factions of one and 1 of another. So you can, just like 3 purity decks, you can only have this deck in that type of deck. But the trade-off for that is these particular cards are a little bit more powerful than the other. Well, we're designing them to be a little bit more powerful than the other Overseers champions as well. So this one basically...
And that's because you have to build a very specific deck for it.
Exactly, you have to build a very specific... You have to build double purity, single purity for it. We're not giving them too big of a buff. They're going to be very comparable because, as I'm pretty sure I mentioned last time in the last stream, we do not want to balance based on purity alone, because that is horrendous, because then you get Mad Monk decks, because we were like, no one's ever going to play DoD and Exiles. No one's ever going to play that. Let's make a really strong card for it. No one's ever going to... We were wrong. Oh, how we were wrong.
We were wrong.
That's just how it is. We were wrong. But at the same time, you know, this guy's pretty beef. So we have Gohan, and then after Gohan, we also have, drumroll. Yep. The card that no one ever used ever has been made super sexy.
I'm going to show him.
Almost too sexy. We're very scared about the sexiness of this guy right here. But we'll
I'm going to show him.
Yes, please do.
Okay,
Go.
switch into Flame Dawn. There we go.
Da-da-da, da-da-da. So, Gohan, the Macho Man of DoD, and the Macho Man of Flame Dawn have been ascended. So we have Iberian, Champion of Force. So basically what we did with this guy was we were like, we kind of like how he is in normal Flame Dawn, but let's just make him super crazy. So he is now a 6-drop, flying champion, 10/10, still indestructible while in the assault zone. So now, hopefully now he might see a little bit more play. He's a bit angry. He's back for a vengeance. He is
very
too
mad.
Much. And we are also even thinking of giving this guy haste. But it's a scary concept that we're being very sort of hesitant about.
Yeah.
But you may see him on live with haste. So there's really not too much to say about this card, except this was a card that we really felt had a nice mechanic on him, but was too overcosted, and no one really... He was designed for another age. He was designed for an earlier age. So what we do now is we bring him into the new age. We make him cheaper. Game's a little bit faster now. He's a bit more playable, but we give him this champion mechanic and put a really restrictive purity cost on him. So yeah, okay. So it does.
Yeah,
seem
he
like
meant to
a lot
say
of people
charge,
do not want. Oh yeah, charge,
yeah,
not haste, not haste.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's fine. Charge.
Charge, if anything, and
no. The original Iberian has not been changed. And that's, I understand a lot of people are going to look at that and say, yeah, power creep. The concept is the original Iberian, as Poga said, was designed for a very different environment. That's the first set we ever released. There were very few cards, very few strategies, very few decks. The concept was that original Iberian was made for a time and age that no longer exists. And this Iberian is designed for where we are now. Yeah, it might. Metas always do that. Environments do that, but this is where the game is now.
So yeah. So that is that is all of the champion cards that we have created, and we've also then created cards like Champion's Herald, which allow for mana ramp for your champion cards to facilitate faster and more frequent switching. And we will this champion mechanic gives us a whole whole bunch more variables to change and to tweak in terms of both balance and how interesting the faction is. And we're really excited about it, and we hope that you guys are too. And we can't wait to get this out in order and see how it turns out.
This is going to make me actually play Overseers, because anyone who's ever watched my streams, flying is not OP necrologic. If I apologize if you haven't seen the Overseers changes we were doing, but I will be highlighting it. Flying is interesting. Certainly, it has its playstyle, but we are creating an environment where flying cannot be a beat-all.
Yeah, flying we found is a combat avoidance in general, and flying is sort of like the most typical combat avoidance. It is great in bits. It's like haste. It's like charge. If everything has haste and everything has charge, then the game starts to get a little bit out of control, because we still want the norm. We still want you to basically say, okay, a lot of his characters are going to act normally, but some of them, possibly the more powerful ones or the ones that he has buffed, are going to fly. We didn't want to create it as a baseline. We wanted to basically make it a buff. We wanted to make it feel and act like a buff that you have to work for and that you can then use to win. But you do have to work for it a little bit more now.